Renewable energy refers to power that comes from sources that are naturally replenished faster than they are used. Countries around the world are shifting away from fossil fuels toward renewable sources like wind, solar, hydroelectric, and bioenergy to produce electricity. But what exactly is renewable energy? How does it function, and what effects will it have on our daily lives? Put simply, renewable energy, often called renewables, is derived from sources that won't be depleted because they regenerate quickly. These energy sources rely on natural forces such as sunlight, wind, and water movement to generate electricity. They can also come from burning organic materials like plant matter or waste from animals and food. Renewable energy sources are self-sustaining because they depend on Earth's natural systems and weather patterns rather than on resource extraction methods like drilling or mining used for fossil fuels. Fossil fuels including coal, oil, and natural gas are non-renewable because they are formed from the buried remains of ancient plants and animals over millions of years. Scientists warn that, at the current rate of consumption, these resources could be exhausted within this century. Renewable energy sources are self-sustaining because they depend on Earth's natural systems and weather patterns rather than on resource extraction methods like drilling or mining used for fossil fuels. Fossil fuels including coal, oil, and natural gas are non-renewable because they are formed from the buried remains of ancient plants and animals over millions of years. Scientists warn that, at the current rate of consumption, these resources could be exhausted within this century. How do renewable energy sources work? The most widely used types globally are wind, solar, hydroelectric, bioenergy, and geothermal energy. Each of these produces electricity in a different way. Solar panels generate power by converting sunlight into electricity through a process within silicon layers known as the photoelectric effect. In this process, particles of light are absorbed, releasing electrons that create an electric current. Wind energy produces electricity through motion. Wind farms, both on land and offshore, use wind to spin turbine blades connected to generators. The larger the rotor, the more wind energy can be captured and converted into electricity. Offshore turbines tend to be more efficient because of stronger winds at sea, although onshore turbines are generally easier to build. Hydropower works in a similar way to wind energy. Water flowing from a reservoir passes through turbines, causing them to spin and activate generators that produce electricity. The amount of energy generated depends on the volume of water and the height difference between the water source and its outlet. Bioenergy operates differently. It involves producing electricity or gas from organic materials called biomass, which can include plants, wood, agricultural waste, food waste, and even sewage. Biomass is categorized into dry and wet types. Dry biomass, such as wood pellets, is burned in furnaces, while wet biomass, like food waste, is placed in sealed tanks where it decomposes and produces methane gas, also known as biogas. This gas is then captured and burned. The heat generated from burning either type produces steam, which drives turbines to generate electricity. Geothermal energy, on the other hand, involves accessing underground reservoirs of heat, steam, and hot water. Wells are drilled deep into the earth, sometimes up to a mile, and the heat is used to power turbines connected to generators, producing electricity. Why is renewable energy important? It plays a crucial role in addressing climate change. Since the Industrial Revolution, fossil fuels have been the primary global energy source, and they still account for over 80% of energy used today. Burning these fuels releases large amounts of greenhouse gases, especially carbon dioxide and methane, which trap heat in the atmosphere. This has contributed to a global temperature increase of about 1.1 degrees Celsius compared to pre-industrial levels 1850 to 1900. Rising temperatures have led to more frequent and intense extreme weather events such as heat waves, droughts, heavy rainfall, wildfires, and floods. These events have already displaced millions of people and caused widespread harm to wildlife. Scientists warn that unless emissions are reduced, temperatures will continue to rise and these impacts will worsen. Achieving net zero, where emissions produced are balanced by emissions removed, is essential. Experts emphasize that transitioning quickly to renewable energy, which produces little to no emissions, is key to reaching this goal. Is renewable energy sustainable? Solar, wind, and hydropower generate electricity without direct carbon emissions, but emissions do occur during the construction of their infrastructure. This is largely due to materials like steel, which require energy-intensive production processes that release carbon dioxide. Bioenergy also emits carbon when burned, but the plants used as biomass absorb carbon dioxide during their growth, which helps offset these emissions. However, there are environmental concerns. For example, building solar farms can involve deforestation, which reduces the number of trees available to absorb carbon dioxide. While renewable energy is not completely impact-free, it remains significantly cleaner than fossil fuels. More improvements are still needed to make these systems fully sustainable. How will renewable energy affect the economy and consumers? The cost of renewable technologies, especially solar and wind, has been steadily decreasing and is expected to continue dropping as investments grow. Energy providers suggest that households can lower electricity bills by installing systems like solar panels and battery storage. Globally, transitioning to renewable energy by 2050 could result in savings of up to $12 trillion. Countries are now in a race against time to cut carbon emissions and slow global warming. Replacing fossil fuels with renewable energy is essential to limiting the worst effects of climate change. However, significant progress is still needed, and governments must increase investment in renewable technologies to meet emission reduction targets and ensure a cleaner, more sustainable future for the planet.